So Radhakrishnan, or Radha as we call you. Well, from 1974, I know what you did, and we worked together in tandem, so we know what happened. So I thought we should begin with today by recounting a little bit of what happened before. Because when you came to Shantiniketan in 74 to study, you were already trained a little bit. You already did some, I remember your drawings, your, I think you were quite good in doing your portraits even earlier. So you had a fairly good training before you came. So which shows that you had an interest much earlier, and probably there was some circumstance which led you into this. Can you talk a little about that to start with?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like, I think I started, when I was 8.
Okay, 8.
Yeah, 8 years old, and in fact, many people ask me later also, even ask me, well, how did you start? Is it something that you did modeling in the beginning or something like that? But never. I mean, I didn't have the chance to do any modeling. But of course, and also another question which I face is that, well, do you have anybody artist in the family? And it's like, yes, I have my, uncle who is the younger brother of my father, who is a painter. And he was also teaching painting to many other students.
Okay.
Now, when you are young, I mean, you are seeing that it's happening before you, and that he himself involved in making, commissioned portraits and things like that. And you have many other students coming and, working on. Of course, it's more of a portrait lessons for the reason that, it's a kind of a school that was followed. It was more from the Ravi Verma school, because that was, and he did apparently large canvases, of leaders like say Mannam Padmanabhan, or or even sometime for the private collections. He used to come and he used to take up those jobs. And also he was same. My uncle was teaching in the same school where I studied.
Okay.
So it's like you are having a drawing class in the school, and then you have home. Back home, you have a kind of a different way of training. But students were very senior, obviously, because they were all probably after class 10 secondary school. They come and learn.
So it was more like professional training.
Professional training, and for me, it was more like kind of hanging around and probably just sort of taking out colors from here and there and putting things across. Yeah, it's one of those. But then I think it was my father who understood that, that I was, even when I was not with my uncle, I was still doing something. And he decided that, he also told my Kochachan, who I called my uncle, and to continue to be working with him. Instead of playing around, you're wasting time, well, why don't you be there and this and that. And once I took to it, well, I started enjoying, and it was more like kind of, drawing with no criteria, no quality or whatever. There's no set standard as such, but I think it was a kind of a quality time that I spent. And another thing I really did was like, they also sort of had some of the models, especially this, these beggars used to come, from say Bihar and this and that, or sometimes from other states, with the post-flood, people hanging around, and then you don't want to give any money unless. So I told my mother, anybody comes, you send them to our. So we used to look at them and do
as models.
And then give something when we, rice or put coins or whatever. And then they used to come back because they get food also. My mother used to give them food if he's a model like him. So I think that practice helped me a lot, and not that I had very sophisticated colors or even color pencils or anything. So I used to do with curry, what called the charcoal. That was on a newsprint, not newsprint, actually newspapers. Because with some kind of an imperial size drawings, I could do some drawings, and and I didn't know later how do you preserve it, or there's nothing that you stick on, the spray to stick. So those were extremely emotionally kind of, played results and things like that. That was very useful.
One thing I remember is that when you came, your drawings were fairly good. So this was this long practice of drawing.
I suppose, yes. Those really helped me a lot.
That was one of the really strong points when you came, and if you look at your early drawings,
That's
I think
right,
it was
yes.
very smooth, it was very well, quickly executed, and there was a kind of verve about all the liveliness about those drawings.
I
and
think, it's true, because I think that liveliness, when you say that, it's coming because of it's drawn from life. It's not that you really look at somebody did a painting and you are not looking at that and repeating it, you know. Which was normally a tendency which you see in young kids, that, you know, they take reference from the textbooks and this and that. Instead, you know, that time that you are looking at a model, I mean, and then drawing it. So it's a three-dimensional object you are looking at and making it into. I think that was
useful,
very useful. Also, I really remember that, you know, when my teacher, I mean, who's the uncle, also got convinced of certain skills that I developed. And he sometimes takes 2 jobs, and there is a deadline or something like that. And, you know, so he used to sort of tell me, why don't you start? You know, that way I also sort of started working with the oil colors, which was a bit too early, but still he gave me a certain amount of confidence in handling his commissions. Yes, and I mean, then I understand. In one case, I really remember that the photographs which were given to him for making a portrait was very poor quality. And he told me, well, why don't you start working on it with the kind of... So I started working, you know, directly without not much of a graph and things like that. Directly I started. And when we were submitting the work, he thought maybe they may not like it because it's different from what the photograph given to him. And then when we went and they said that, you know, that photograph was too, it was not good, but I think what you brought is close to my father. So I understood, you know, sometimes, you know, certain things that happens gives me more of a confidence in painting and using the pigments and things like that, you know.